This is Papa Smurf. You're listening to Our Lifestyle, the podcast, with ODB and the Mayor.
Yo, this is Rob Maggi, and you're listening to Our Lifestyle podcast.
Yo, as we get started, we want to thank our title sponsor, Scrapin' the Coast. You can visit scrapinthecoast.com for more information. Their next event, 22nd annual, is going to be the last weekend in June. They haven't yet announced it for 2024, but rest assured, we will be out there. One of the biggest, baddest shows in the country. Get ready for more information coming soon on Scrapin' the Coast. Tap on the hashtag #ScrapinTheCoast for more information. We appreciate the continued support of Custom Car Show Productions. Yo, it's ODB from OLP. On this episode of OLP, we're going to switch things up a little bit. As I recently announced with Mike and I, we're going to kind of do some shorter episodes that have a lot of content in them. And this is one of the first episodes that we're doing that way. We won't have our normal banter at the beginning of the episode. However, I'm excited to announce, if you saw the thumbnail or the cover art for this episode, you know that we have Craig Fraser on. Now, he's no stranger. We've had him on a couple of times, but this is the first time that we're doing a video interview with Craig. So if you're listening via a podcast app, please finish it out there. But certainly go, if you have an opportunity, and check us out on YouTube and watch the episode there. I'll share a few things during the interview, but you get a little bit more rich experience, of course, watching the guest as well as myself on the episode. So it's a lot of fun. I hope that you enjoy it. I want to give a huge shout out to our title sponsor, Scrapin' the Coast. Every June in Biloxi this year, it's the 21st, the 22nd, the 23rd. This is a show that was voted in the Mini Truck Hall of Fame and has an awesome history there in the Gulf Coast. It's one of the biggest, baddest shows around. They also have air conditioning via the Coliseum. So if you have an opportunity late June to go down to Biloxi or go north from Florida to Scrapin' the Coast, you will not be disappointed. There's lifted, lowered, classics, mini trucks, of course, some bikes as well, typically. But it's going to be an awesome event. We'll be talking more about it. If you are new to this podcast, please go back and look at our very in-depth library that we have. We go back over 350 episodes. Many of them are available on YouTube, but the earlier catalog is going to be available, of course, through your favorite podcast app. If you download Podbean and search OLP, that is who hosts our podcast, so you can go back to the beginning from there. But certainly there's a lot of history, and what I have found, especially at Mini Nats a few weeks back, when people find us and they say, hey, I started listening, they go, wow, we appreciate all of the guests, all of the stories, all of the different things that you and Mike and often these guests talk about. So certainly take some time if you get a chance. If you're an over-the-road person, you've got plenty to listen to here with OLP. With that being said, stay on the rise, and Lord willing, we'll hit you next week with another episode. And again, thank you to Craig Fraser for sitting down with us. We talked about some very, very cool stuff, including this publication, which they were kind of tied into, if you will, and we talk about it. So much more to come on this episode. Craig Fraser, Air Syndicate, of course, as well as working with Cal Concepts for a very long time. Let's do this. Hey, we want to thank Craig Fraser for sitting down with us again, man. How you doing, our friend?
I'm doing great, man. Good seeing you again. Finally, good to see you, and I'm not just talking to blank wall like in the past. So
I know. What's funny is I always thought my anxiety would be a little bit tougher to ask people like, hey, do you mind doing a video call? And almost every single person has said, you know what, this makes it easier because we can it's like a FaceTime call.
Yeah, but see, it's okay because I'm looking at my camera right there, so I don't have to look at your eyes, so it's fine.
Right.
Yeah. I can't. No, don't direct eye contact. I understand.
Oh yeah.
No sudden.
And look, I'm one of your biggest fans here. I had to pull this out. I remember
you've got the glossy. You've got the
You
I still
reshared it
have that shirt.
one time on a Throwback Thursday. It was kind of cool. That was old severed buddy of mine, Derek, that had started Bent back in the day.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Those were the collector cars we were doing back in the day, just to be. We had some people who were like that's kind of arrogant. I go, dude, we're just being dicks on purpose. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. I got to ask you this. Last time we chatted, we talked a little bit about Daniel Woodlands, right? Because you had shared with us that, hey, you know, Air Syndicate has been awesome, and you still got that going on. But I'm kind of curious, like, how's everything going since you started over there?
It's going really good. For those that didn't follow or saw before, I'm the new creative. Well, not new anymore. I've been there almost 3 years this July. Creative director and project manager at Daniel's Woodland. And what it basically is, it started out. This is two brothers that started out doing tree houses. They had a TV show back in the day called Redwood Kings that still has episodes on YouTube. You can go watch it. Pretty dang funny. And I'd known these guys. I know who they were for a while, and we actually met at a Disney signing because they're Disney artists as well. And then I started doing work for them. And then all of a sudden they offered me the position of creative director. And I'm only an hour and a half away from Bakersfield. I still work with Dion. I'm still there like every, it seems like at least once a month or once every couple of months. And we still paint, trucks and boats and you name it. Having to, doing all that. But at the same time, I'm over at Paso Robles. I actually live about 35, about 30 miles away up at Lake Nacimiento. So I'm up in the lake now, a lot nicer area than Bakersfield, but still go back to Bakersfield on a regular basis. You can't leave the roots. Got to check that place out all the time.
That's super cool. For those that are watching us on YouTube, you can kind of see the screen share that I'm doing here. What was cool is when Craig was on before, we talked a little bit about, I was a fan of the show, and what was so neat of their older show was they would go out and get the trees, but they wouldn't cut down new trees, if you will. They would take the trees that had fallen over. And to me, that was such a cool thing. But talk to us a little bit about some of the things that you guys do, because I think it ties into like theme parks and stuff now.
Well, we still do that. We still do the old growth redwood, and we're one of the few companies that's allowed to, harvest the old growth redwood. And we're not chopping it down. So people think, oh, you're cutting it down. No, this is stuff that was, if it was cut down, it was cut down 100 years ago by loggers, but they didn't have the technology to move this 100-foot long, 20-foot wide tree out of there. So we'll then take this redwood, and it's old growth. It's anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 years old, and we'll turn it into carvings and for Disney and different types of Disney carvings. And but we also do carvings for other companies too and other fine art, and we make tables and do that. And then they still do the tree houses for kids, but they also do they elaborate on that, started doing really high-end shooting galleries that were animatronic, because it was like the two brothers are very good at like looking at something like, that's cool, we can do better, and then they do. And then we've taken it to a whole other level where all the electronics, the circuitry, it's all proprietary programming. Everything we do on the shooting galleries, and we've got shooting galleries in I think about like at least a dozen countries besides the United States, and so they're all over the place. But we also do a lot of stuff for the theme parks. We recently have done. If you've seen the new Aquaman ride over at Six Flags over Texas, we did all the theming for that ride, the statue of Aquaman and all the signage. And then we also did the theming for Wonder Woman that was over at Six Flags in Valencia, the new ride there. We did the theming for that as well. Wow. And right now we're working with Knott's Berry Farm and restoring some stuff for them. And we have a lot of NDA stuff I can't really talk about. But we are working with Cedar Fair, Universal, and Disney. And then we also work for a number of other companies as well. And then we also have side companies we work for events, companies that will do booths at different shows, trade shows, and we'll do booths for them. We've done large 3D printed sculptures. If anyone saw the Nicolas Cage's debut for the Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, we did 3 giant 6-foot tall busts of Nicolas Cage for the premiere. Wow. 3D printed and molded those. And then during the premiere, different artists painted all over them and stuff.
That's so sick.
We're, as you mentioned, I think in the last one we talked about Masters of the Universe and the new Mattel park opening up in Arizona. We're working with them on a number of things. We're doing the Thomas the Train, or Thomas the Tank Engines Theater. We're doing theming for that ride. We're also doing theming for the Hot Wheels roller coaster, as well as a lot of we're doing a mini golf for them that has all the themes of their different products they make, and then and of course Masters of the Universe, the big they have a huge laser tag game, and we did all the theming for that, and the 8 foot tall He-Man and Skeletor we had that 2 years ago finished, but
at one of the trade shows.
It was at the trade show. It was at the IAPA trade show, which is International Association of Amusement Parks of America, something like that. I'm terrible with acronyms. It took me years to figure out what SEMA meant. So I still think I got it wrong.
Car show? No, it's not a car show.
Specialty equipment? I don't know what it is.
Exactly.
It's like Dare. I always thought it was just drugs are real expensive. Kids, don't do it. It's too expensive.
Right. Right. That's your brain on drugs, Craig.
Dare.
What's crazy is that you guys always have dabbled in different things, right? And when I think about Daniel Woodland's, when you were on before, you think you had talked about your son was maybe coming on board. I want to ask you if he still helps you guys, but I wanted to kind of know, we talked about in the past, kind of maybe sometimes reinventing yourself and things like that. How important do you think it is for Daniel Woodland's for you guys to be able to branch out and do different things? I mean, that has to help keep the business going.
It does, and it's a good point. It's kind of interesting you brought that up. For years, it's been known as just Daniel's Woodland, and we're slowly segueing into DWL. Just because people hear the word wood and de-associate it with wood, even though we're doing large 50-foot tall steel structures that are, wood is actually one of the few products we don't make. We did this one thing that looked like it's made out of wood. It's actually all steel and concrete, and we just fabricated the concrete to look like wood. So it's kind of funny that we don't do a lot of wood anymore. So they wanted to just be known as DWL, Scenic Fabricators. So, and it's literally like if very similar. We used to make jokes back in the day. Me and Dion would say, if it has mass and occupies space, we will paint on it. Pretty much, if you have the money, the space, and we will supply the mass, and we will fill up whatever you need with whatever your scenic thing you need done. And all the techniques I learned in the past working with Dion at Cal Concepts, I still apply here. It's kind of funny. I spend more time in the booth now than I did at Cal Concepts because I was usually airbrushing out of the booth and Dion's in the booth. What turns out that, when forced to clear coat because I don't have Dion with me, I'm actually not that bad at it. And I end up having to do, but it's also a lot of other scenic work we're doing. And at Cal Concepts, polyurea had one purpose. It was Linex. It's in the bed liner. You have no idea the crap that we make with polyurea. We use these huge foam sculptures that we'll cover up with polyurea. We did a 20-foot long, 18-foot tall dragon for the Year of the Dragon at the Galleria down in Southern California, and it was all foam with polyurea on it, and it was amazing. And you could pick up huge sections of this. It wasn't that heavy. I mean, it wasn't lightweight, but very durable. We do a lot of external signage with it. We do sculptures with it. We've got a mill that mills out our foam that we then coat with the polyurea. So I never really considered polyurea to be an art project, but it turned out that that's what we use it for. And we go through as much polyurea at our shop as most Linex places go through, except I don't think we've ever done a bed liner. Not yet.
That's crazy, right? I know. It's weird how different facets of the business still play into kind of the world that you dabble in, if you will.
Yeah. I
want to ask you this. When you talked a little bit about last time, 3D printing and things like that, and you kind of hinted at that. Is that still a part of, the daily, monthly, weekly routine, if you will, or are you finding other facets that you're using more?
No, we're still growing with it, and it's like a combination of. I mean, we've got a massive 1800 Pro, which is a huge 3D printer. I probably mentioned it in the show before. You can stand up inside of it. It's got a build plate of 4 foot by 5 foot by 6 foot tall, and if you go on my Instagram, you see pictures of it here and there of us using it. My son is in charge of the 3D printing department. He's expanded beyond that. He's still in charge of 3D printing, but now he's running the gantry router. And we had this gantry router. It was great, 3-axis gantry router. And all of a sudden, Simon's like, it has a 4th axis. I'm like, no, it doesn't. He goes, yeah, it does. He goes, it's got a router. It's got like another motor underneath in the bed. Take the bed off, and it had never been hooked up. So he got that hooked up and running. So now we got a 4-axis gantry router. So he's going
Wow.
on doing that. He's also learning SolidWorks, so he's able to combine his ZBrush forms and then incorporate SolidWorks to create the steel and everything that goes inside the 3D printed element we have to put on there.
Wow.
And we've recently brought in a guy that is he worked in the aerospace industry for years doing high-end glass and carbon fiber, and he's doing a lot of our layups and our fiberglass work and our mold work, and has taken us to a whole nother level on that. And then we went and got ourselves a chopper gun, so we're able to produce molds and crank out parts at a higher volume with this fiberglass chopper gun. So we're always looking for new stuff. But the 3D printing, we just recently had that 1800 Pro updated to a 5000, so it's now even better machine. And then my son's got about a dozen 3D printers in our garage. He has a separate company on the side called Simon Fraser Designs, SMD, and he actually SFD. He actually sells back to Daniels Woodland. So sometimes they'll hire him to do something that our 3D printer can't do, and he's got a setup in the garage.
Wow.
So whether it be resin, or he's got this one that literally prints carbon fiber. He has a 3D printer that prints wood, and it even smells like wood. And if you print it at a certain angle, it does the wood grain. It's creepy.
Wow.
It's really neat. So he's taken over half my garage with his 3D printers, but that's his side business. And but we're always looking for new ways of using it. And whether it be for actually making the element or making the mold that we then build the element off of, or making the buck that we then make a mold that we then shoot fiberglass into. So the trick with 3D printing, and I've said this to a lot of people, is don't fall in love with the technology. It's like airbrushing. Don't fall in love with that damn airbrush, because sometimes you should use another tool. The airbrush can't do everything. And same thing with 3D printing. A lot of people fall in love with it and they use it for just stupid reasons because, I got this machine, I spent a lot of money on it. Sometimes just use something else that works, as long as you use it for the right tool. But we're always looking for new ways of using it, usually against the manufacturer's recommendations. But that's what I've done my entire career, whether it be paint, where someone says, here's some new paint. Whatever you do, don't do these 5 things. And what's the first 5 things I do? That's what I do, because I want to see what happens, see if they're wrong. Also, maybe they catch it on fire and do something cool. But also maybe they're right, but in the wrong way.
Oh, yeah.
Discovered a lot of, there's no hardcore rules in art or anything else. They're always bendable. If anyone turns around and
Get
says,
the job done.
yeah, if someone's telling you this is the only way it can be done, okay, that person is either A, ignorant, or B, has a hidden agenda, and they only want you to do it this way because that's their way, and they actually get residuals. So, yeah.
Right. And I was going to wait till later to ask this, but I was watching a show, and I forget if it was on YouTube. It might have been Haggerty show, Barn Find show, but they went to this gentleman. I think he was in New Jersey. And I looked him up on Instagram. Real high-end hot rodder builder, right? And this guy builds like these one-off cars.
Mm-hmm.
And they were discussing about, he has this machine that can basically do like what an English wheel can do, and he can make these fenders and stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
And the gentleman was asking him, like, okay, is this taking a little bit out of it? And he said, well, look, it still takes a lot of talent for us to assemble all these pieces. This is still going to be a one-off handmade car. But he said, this tool over here allows for this to happen so that I can do this over here. And I often thought about, like, if you think about when power tools first came out, I'll plug and drill. Do you think the people before that were like, oh my God, in my day, we had to take the drill, because my dad had one of those stupid drills, and I know people joke about today with the way technology is going, but I wonder if people were like, well, in my day, you guys are lucky you have electric. To me, it's like you have to utilize the tools, and that's kind of like what you're saying with the 3D printers and stuff. It's like you have to use that to your benefit.
You have to, and as long as it's not, if it's a production tool that allows you more freedom to create and to invent and to be better, then it is a successfully good tool. If it's a tool that replaces your creativity with an acceptable level of
Good
duplication,
point.
and I think you know where I'm going with this, AI. I heard recently Jerry Seinfeld did a phenomenal speech at Duke. If you can watch the speech, it's really hilarious.
I've read some excerpts from it already.
My favorite, he has 2 excerpts that were good. He says, one of the excerpts was AI should be the opposite of Nike. It should be, you just can't do it, because it is replacing a lot of creativity with what's considered mediocre creativity. As soon as people start using more and more and more AI instead of doing stuff, you're going to see AI becoming flat, because AI can only survive with the input that has been given. And they keep modifying the algorithm, and that's the key part. It'd be like if you go to a casino and you're like, hey, this machine's not paying out as good. And so they go and work on it and try it now, and it starts paying out good. But all of a sudden you realize, wait a second. So in other words, it's not random. It's not skill. You're running it, and it's algorithm. So these algorithms will make certain people happy. But when it comes down to it is hurting creativity. Now, am I worried about it? No. Same reason that vinyl didn't scare me back in the day. I think AI is hilarious. I get a big kick out of it. I've seen a major change done to the algorithm because it was being incredibly inappropriate on some things. It was really funny. Matter of fact, one of the funnest uses of it was it's like, when you try and get Siri to say things or do things that were funny. AI is in the jokey joke stage right now of it, and then there's some people that just live by Midjourney and all their other stuff and ChatGPT. That's fine. It's a good tool, but
don't let it replace, like you said, the creativity. Don't say, hey, I'm not going to write a paper for college. I'm just going to go on ChatGPT.
AI is a great tool, but using correctly, it's like a hammer is a great tool. But if all you ever use is a hammer, everything else starts looking like a nail. And with AI, if all you ever use is AI, then something, do it. Please do it. I love being the last channel. People, oh my God, where'd you get that idea from?
Yeah, exactly.
When
some of these Instagram pages that I was following, people were doing they were going on there and they were typing in, make me a 64 Impala lowrider, right? And it was I was getting sick of all these Instagram pages were doing
it does the Impala, it does the animal, the Impala, and
or this one was a Lego version, and it was you see it and you're like, okay, but then everybody's doing it and I'm like, okay guys, this is it's I don't want to live in a world where, I mean, granted, if someone draws something that's cool, but you can just tell, and I'm just okay, it's getting a little bit overwhelming here.
If you want to know what a good example of, because I don't want to get the hate mail of people, the AI people that they're not typing it. They have AI write me the horrible letter. Right. It's AI, say something bad to Craig, and you know what he doesn't like, and be mean, and you know what hurts his feelings. Right. If you use AI to figure out what the hell's going on in your client's head, because a lot of times you can't figure out what your client likes, but really quick, you can use AI to generate, do you like this? Do you like this? Do you like this? Do you like this? All of a sudden you find something take that. And if I go online and use reference images from other artists, I make sure that I learn from them. I take from them, I synthesize it and make it my own. So it doesn't look like I ripped them off because I didn't, so you're using it as influence. You're not stealing it. Right. And use AI as a tool, a correct tool. If you're using it just to do the same thing over and over, if you're using it just to design something and you're not doing the design and you're credit for yourself, that's a problem. See, AI is finally given, and there's going to be artists that swear by this, and they're not right or wrong, but there's a lot of artists out there that will take credit where credit's not due, and they will take something, sell it as their own, and it's not. And they usually get in trouble for it, or sometimes you don't. Well, AI is the perfect person for them to use now because AI does nothing but take other artists' work and make it your own. Well, it doesn't, and people know that. I mean, I can spot something that's AI generated. It's not because I'm a genius. Right. It all looks the same. The same way, if you spot, I kind of pride myself on, a lot of people look at certain graphics and they'll look at something, they're like, well, you didn't paint that, did you? I'm like, yeah, I did. They'll just look at your style. I go, thank you. Because I try and every now and then push my style in a different direction, because after a while, it just looks the same all the time. And, nowadays, one guy's making a comment and he saw a mini truck that me and Dion just recently did. He's like, well, it kind of looks like your old stuff. I go, thank you. I go, matter of fact, we were hired to do, the guy wanted old school 90s mini truck. Now, AI is getting better. But what's getting better at, it's like a kid that's finding a better way of not getting caught stealing a cookie, because they still are copying stuff that's already out there, because AI can't generate stuff on its own. It can only take and synthesize and create. Yeah, it's very similar to us, but at a much lower level. And so originally, I remember going through, I can't remember which one it was, but we just typed in 1990s mini truck graphics. And it came up with about a dozen different mini truck paint jobs, and we're looking at them. And this is maybe about 2 years ago or something. So this is infant version of that. And it was like almost every paint. And I go, that's Coleman's, that's mine. Oh, you remember that one we did over here? And you're looking at this truck that has 5 different paint jobs, some of them backwards, because AI doesn't know when something's backwards or not. And some of it was like, that's actually pretty good. It's pretty interesting. But you're looking at it, I'm like, well, that's the last look, and that's Bad to the Bone, and that's Coleman's Graphic Violence, and so we're able to literally go through, and we're laughing our asses off. It's gotten much better at synthesizing.
Yeah.
But it's still screwed up because I wrote in, I said, give me a example of a 1990 mini truck. And it literally showed me had a K5 Blazer with graphic. Dude, you're not even right. I mean, and then there's another one where it was a newer truck, like a Dualit, so maybe only 15 years old Dualit, and it had mini graphics on it. And it was like this Flower Child graphics. So like that never was the 90s. And then I'm looking at the Flower Child graphics, and they're upside down, and it's a Volkswagen Bug that me and Dion did back in the day that was listed under mini truck paint jobs under an article. So AI found an article on mini trucks. Unfortunately, many mini truck articles show the influence of mini trucking. So AI doesn't know that you're cross-referencing. So it's like, oh, this must be it. It was this really weird-looking Volkswagen.
Yeah, it cross-pollinates.
Out of the 60s.
A little
and
too
it pops
much.
up in mini truck graphics from the 90s because it was in an article that was in the magazine that me and Dion ran with mini truck graphics. So it's really, when you understand the algorithm, and then people say, well, they're improving the algorithm. I go, true. The magician's getting better, but guess what? Still a trick.
Still a trick. Yeah, and the reason why I think there's benefits to the fact that, like, let's say you're like, hey, I want to change a setting on my iPhone. And you go on, just Google, and you'll see this now. You'll say, how do I turn on this notification? And it's using AI to go, and it pulls that article, and it's like, okay, here's the Apple article, and this is all you do, right? And it makes that simple. I think that stuff is even going to revolutionize like customer service type things. And I do think it's also going to impact some jobs, because I've kind of seen it in the tech world where if your internet goes out, what happened to us one day, and you call the internet provider, we couldn't get to a rep. The system diagnosed and says, okay, we pinged your network, it's down. We're going to send the technician. Oh, by the way, not today, but tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right? So be it. So to your point, it's like, I think there's going to be good and bad, but it's like at the end of the day, if we look back in time and we go, oh my God, the CD's coming out, now look where we're at. Cassettes and vinyl have made such a big resurgence, right?
Yeah.
So it's weird. Things just go in cycles.
Yeah. Well, a good example is a company that I do a lot of work with. I still do a lot of work with is Cratex, and I've designed a lot of the paint systems for them. And most of the paint I use nowadays is water-based, and a lot of the Candy 2.0 system and Maker Pro, which is a product that Cratex makes for Smooth On, and it's a company that does scenic work. But all of these paints and things that are out there, I lost my train of thought. What did I say just now? Sorry.
Oh, Syntax, about Syntax and the smoothing for the landscape. The company you work for.
Oh yeah, there was a reason I was bringing up the paints, and I just lost my train of thought on.
Oh, because we were talking about AI, and then I forget. But
the reason Cratex, the company. I'm getting old. And this is Diet Coke. Don't worry, it's just Diet Coke.
Yeah.
But
this is
Cratex uses ChatGPT and a number of other AIs to create their tech hotline and to answer questions. Just if you answer a question, it answers you back. And it was interesting because Kennedy, Craig Kennedy, we call him the other Craig, he developed this. He's the owner of Cratex, and he started working with a number of people doing AI to create this system. It's one of the more advanced ones. And he created this little cartoon character, Vinny, and it will talk and whatever. They're working on it. But he was even saying, he goes, I took all of your written articles and we entered it in there. And I took all of your videos and we entered it in there. And I've done dozens of videos with Kennedy and all of my online stuff and even my podcast. He goes, we entered it all in.
Wow.
I'm like, to the database. And he goes, what I want you to do is I want you to give me a whole bunch of rants. Because he loves my bizarre, pissed off rants I go on. And he's going to create this character that basically, he goes, it's already got my voice. It can duplicate my voice, and he's going to make a little cartoon character. It'll be like, you can either just ask a question or you can ask Craig, in which case you'll get the answer. But you'll also get like some bullshit going, me talking shit.
Once he's all done with it, Craig, be like, all right, send me the check.
Yeah, he goes, do you have a problem with that? I go, no. I go, please do this. I would love to be able to say that's not me. That's AI Craig. So and he was just like, he goes, I have no idea it was going to go because it grows. It actually will send him emails. The AI program will like send him emails saying, we just want, basically saying this thing that you just entered, it may be incorrect compared to this, and this. Would you like us to change this in the database? So it's actually making corrections to like statements I made. I'm like, yeah, that statement was a long time ago. And so he enters in, that was older. So he adds in the caveat saying, well, that was with this reducer and that is no longer made. We use this product now. So yes, that technique was viable 20 years ago. It's not viable now. So AI corrects that and puts that caveat in there, unless you're using an older product. And I mean, it's kind of creepy, but I was laughing. I go, please make the little version of me. And I would love to know that I crashed the internet with a psychotic little version.
We've seen the sci-fi movies and things like that, but you think about, I was talking to my son yesterday about the Meta glasses, right? And you go, for the first time, these aren't Ray-Bans here, but you can buy almost a standard looking wearable, and sure, it has a little camera, and I think it has a red light when it's recording. But if you think about how tech is moving, eventually, I think the more stuff that's recorded of people's lives, right? Maybe every day, or going to car shows, or doing a job and everything, and all of that gets continuously uploaded, right? It's almost like the days of like taking a little chip, going, okay, insert it in your brain.
That's coming. Elon Musk has it. The Neuralink. That's people make jokes about it. That's a legitimate company that actually has more startup funding than most companies that are now $1 billion companies. But if you want to see an excellent movie, some people like it, some people don't. It's called The Circle, and I think it stars. I think it's Natalie Portman. I can't remember.
I haven't seen that,
but Tom Hanks is in it, and but it is a story about people being online constantly, and full transparency, full disclosure. Really interesting study, and it takes a little bit of a bite out of Apple and out of everybody. A little bit of like, it kind of, they're not talking direct shit about anybody, but it's really an interesting movie. And people look at, that's not real. I'm like, yeah, it is. The same way when people looked at Michael Mann's Black Hat when it first came out. And they're like, that movie's bullshit. No, it is not. That is the way things will go down. That's the way things happen. And we've seen stuff in the last 2 years done by hackers that is, in the same category as Black Hat. So, no, I'm not a conspiracy theorist.
Sure.
But conspiracies are all based on facts.
A little bit of fact,
wouldn't have any hope in it.
If
it's
not
like,
more.
It's like being paranoid. Just because you're paranoid doesn't mean people aren't out to get you. So
Exactly. To turn the corner a little bit, one thing I wanted to mention is I've been looking back at old publications, and I wanted to kind of ask you, you guys seem to have a pretty good relationship with Autographics. For anybody, this was like a trade magazine, my understanding, and there's a few issues out there, including this one where Cal Concepts paint was featured on the cover. Do you guys you have any fond memories of some of these days?
I had a lot of fond memories. Interesting story. I'd been writing the Ask K-Daddy column for Mini Truckin for years, and started doing that with Courtney. And then when Kyle left the shop, and I kind of stopped doing the Ask K-Daddy. But I was still writing articles for Airbrush Action Magazine, and I remember thinking, there's enough custom paint interest to be able to have a magazine just devoted to custom painting. Yeah. And I remember I approached a lot of the magazine companies. Approached Peterson, proposed Macmillan, Argus. I can't remember all the companies I approached on it, and even tried to get Airbrush Action to maybe branch off and do that. And they're like, and I say, look, every major automotive magazine has the Paint Spectacular issue, or the paint issue, and there's more than 12 of them that have this. And you never have the paint issue the same time as another magazine has their paint issue. So by definition, if you had a magazine, it's all about paint. There are readers out there. And there was already Auto Art magazine, which was started by Bob Bond, and that kind of, but he was using that more for the pinheads, the Pinhead Gazette type people. Right. And then so I was approaching Courtney. We were trying to talk Street Trucks guys into letting us do an automotive custom magazine that would be like the way Custom Culture kind of creeped under, did a little something. And later there's one called Pinstripe and Custom Graphics out of the UK that I worked with, but I ended up running into a guy named Terry Wyke who worked for RPM, and he had a lot of trade magazines, and these magazines were like, Awards and Engraving magazine, the magazines you pick up at trade shows, and the only people subscribed to these magazines are trade show guys, like modern day woodworking, auto tinting, sunroofs, these are magazines. All it is, and I guarantee you, some dudes in the sunroofs just like, oh, this is good stuff, and they're catalogs, but they have tech questions and whatever. And this company, that's all they did. None of their stuff was available at a newsstand. It was all, and so I worked with them, and we put together Autographics magazine. And they really put together. They had the name, everything. I said, okay, I'm not going to go and try and start my own anymore. The more I looked into it, the more I did not want to be a publisher.
Sure.
And so I worked a deal with them and started writing for them, not exclusively, because I still was writing for other companies.
Yep.
And then I talked them into also allowing us to do different. They started doing more trade show stuff. We started having shows at the RPM trade show with Autographics.
I see.
It started out as a bi-monthly. And then they went monthly because we had so much attention on it. And then towards the tail end, they went back to bi-monthly again. And they decided to stop it. Now, this is the funny thing is they had too many advertisers and too many people wanted to subscribe. And to the point where they had to take it to the next level. And the guy that owned the magazine company, not Terry, but the owner, was like, I just want to do trade show magazines. I don't want anything newsstand. And I'm like, well, why wouldn't you want something newsstand? Because all of a sudden, if we can obviously go to newsstand and get 100,000, we were all of a sudden the most subscribed to magazine in their entire bin. It was getting too big, so people were demanding newsstand, and they started doing some newsstand with it. Like little stores here, like Dave Monig at Coast Airbush would carry and stuff. And this was interesting. This was the exact quote, and I don't even know if this guy's still around anymore. It was a long time ago. He's like, "Well, if we get on the newsstand and it does really well, a big company will come out and just do another magazine to beat us, or they'll just buy us out." Like, they'll buy you out. Like, this, it's not like they're not going to come with a gun to your head. They're going to buy you out. And you can say no, or you can make money and sell it if you want.
Yeah.
Or just not. And he didn't want to deal with that. He loved his non-competition trade show. This is what I do. And no one complains because no one expects to be any better than it is. Because Autographics was a great magazine, even though it did kind of fall apart towards the tail end. So it didn't have a long run. I think it went about a decade, maybe a little bit longer. We had a lot of good stuff in it. And when these segued away, I worked a deal. I started writing for a couple of magazines overseas in Europe. Chrome and Flame and Art Plus Action magazine. I also
I've seen Chrome and Flame.
Chrome and Flamen, and I wrote for Cal out of Japan, did some stuff for them.
Yeah, because I was going to bring that up. I got the issue when I bought the set that had when they did the shop tour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it's really funny. It's like, it's really sad when it takes somebody from another country to do the best shop tour that you've ever had. Right. Speak the language. I couldn't even read the magazine. It's all in Japanese.
Yeah, so I don't have it scanned, but this was a cool article that I found. It was by Jay Landsberg, but this was cool. I had to do a double take on, with, and you guys obviously were no stranger to doing this kind of stuff as well, but, to see two OBS trucks with jet skis, wave runners, if you will, in there, Bombardier, that was pretty cool because just again, this to me is gold now because you don't even see this. I mean, once in a blue moon in Truckin,
Yeah. So Autographics was cool because it wasn't isolated to what no one's going to turn around and say that's not a truck, and
that's an El Camino.
It was anything, and you could have jet skis, you could have boats. You could have. We had I think one of our covers with Autographics was it was a mini truck and a plane that matched the mini truck. It was, I don't know if you ever saw that one. It was an orange plane and an orange mini truck with graphics. I can't remember the name of the.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. That was Dion's truck, the Sony truck, Sony Explode truck. It had Sony audio equipment, I think.
Yeah, it was, which was it was Biggie's old S10, the yellow S10 that Biggie.
Oh, got it. It was yellow. Wow.
Yeah, so that one was Dion got it, and then we bought it because it was all thrashed, and then we fixed it all up. But yeah, it was that, and it was a buddy of ours plane that Dion painted to match the truck. So it looked like it was the truck and the matching plane. But yeah, that was an Autographics, and then and we also had two. It's the first time we had $2 cars on the cover of Autographics. And one was the Ford dollar car, and one was the Chevy dollar car. And neither Ford nor Chevy, they both knew that we were going to get on the cover. They didn't know they were going to be on the cover together.
Wow.
So it was kind of like, it was really kind of funny. And one was all done with Cratex, and one was all done with House of Color. And so Dion was all like, "You're playing a dangerous game." I'm like, this is fun. So the House of Color was like, "We got the cover autographics." Yes, you do. Ford, yes, you do. Chevy, yes, you do. Cratex, yeah.
Though
And I didn't lie. They did.
that's awesome. I wanted to show you this. So my good friend Thad,
Oh yeah.
shout out to Thad. He does a lot for the scene. He makes custom signs and he sells them at these different shows and raises money for charity.
Mhm.
He shared these with me about a year and a half ago, and he came out circa 2000, 2001. I think he came out for Cal Truck Jam one year, but he goes, "Hey, it was really cool." He said, "I got this fond memory that when I went to Cal Concepts, Craig came out and took a photo with me, and then there were just a couple behind the scenes here, of course." And that was now. This was the shop back when it was by DeBerti's, or was this after that?
This was by DeBerti's. This was the shop. That's the engineering building on the other side that used to do. That was the one that was actually, it was a machine shop that was producing the grills before Trends started making their own grills.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
and then here was
and that's my Buick. That's my '61 Buick. And then
a sticker.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we were a Moon Eyes distributor. We actually sold House of Color there too, because we couldn't get any House of Color in our neighborhood. Our local paint shop shut down, so we brought in House of Color itself. And so, yeah, that's all. That's actually turned sideways. But,
that's what I thought. I was like, wait, I gotta fix that.
That's a roll up door, and all those panels are from my book, my first book. Those were the panels I did that were the chapters of the book on how to paint stuff.
And you would have kept all this stuff, right?
A lot of them I kept. I gave most of them to Dion. He actually has them at the shop still, and then about half of them are at Coast Airbrush on display.
Yep.
I gave them to Dave. I didn't really keep them myself.
Yep. And I think this was the show that he went to, and then he had he had worked it out. And I think if I remember correctly, here was the ironic thing. This just came back to me. I think what he said is he showed up there the one day, and he was this is before cell phones and all that. And I think you guys were closed or something. And he goes, I went back the next day, and they were there, and he goes, everybody was super cool. And he's like, Craig, said, yeah, I'll take a photo with you, no problem. So I thought that was a cool story.
Yeah, no, we the one cool thing about Cal Concepts, it still is that way. It was definitely was a hangout place, but I would, I of course work there all the time. But people say, no, you shouldn't be. You're there almost every day. I'm like, yeah, but even when I'm done working, it's a cool place to hang out at. I just I had video games, and a buddy of mine used to take video games to pizza places and rotate them. And then if he had any spares, I'd have them in there. So we had video games that were never you never had to put quarters in. They're free. So we had Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, and it was a fun place to hang out.
Yeah, and I've shared some of the footage in the past, again, thanks to Steve Nielsen, because the year that Steve went by there, I think he went to like Summer Madness, or he went to some show, and then he came over, and what was I take that back, I think it was June of 98, it was when you guys had an open house, and Courtney was there, and he's in the video, and it was neat because you guys were finishing the Look That Kills, and you guys said, come on to the back, and it was like... We
rebuilt the entire shop, and that was our grand opening, because we had, we built the booth in the back, we took out the front booth, we put it in the showroom, so all that stuff was added on to the
all the trend stuff.
Yeah, I literally had moved out of the shop and moved to the back. There's a back building that was the dyno building for Curtis. Okay. This whole place was the Curtis Craft Boat Factory originally, Dion's grandfather's company.
Yes.
So I moved to the back dyno room. So Air Syndicate was in the back now. And then the whole shop, I mean, literally a third of the shop was a showroom. It was
so cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty neat.
And I did have a loft. I had a loft in the showroom. Dion still has that whole loft in the new shop. We moved that loft out because everything we built into there was self-standing. So we could take it out without the landlord getting mad at us. So
yeah, and I'm going to share some of the other footage that people haven't seen from that Steve Nielsen VHS where at SEMA, I think it was ironic because some of the stuff that you could see at the Cal Concept shop was some of the same stuff either from the previous SEMA or that next SEMA where you had it on display because you always had your stuff at the House of Color booth and you would do the different demos.
Iwata and House of Color. We had both of them. And we did the booth. We actually built the booth for Iwata for 6 years. And then we would bring vehicles out for the House of Color and the Iwata booth, but we'd also bring out vehicles for Chisholm Suspension and whatever companies we work for, to different companies here and there. I mean, one year we literally were responsible for 13 vehicles.
Wow.
That sucked. So we had everyone and their mother towing or driving the damn vehicle to SEMA. So, but it was fun.
Yeah. One last question about mini trucks. Like recently, we've seen trucks, and rest in peace, Eric Coleman. With Relax Taco.
Yeah,
we've seen trucks sell for 30 to 50,000 plus. These mini trucks. I mean, some super high end builds, right?
Yeah.
Does it ever amaze you that when you look back, and I know we briefly touched upon this topic in the past, but when you look back to the the late 80s and really arguably the 90s is kind of the golden era. Do you just look back and say, wow, like you guys had your hand in so much, and then now look at where mini trucks, the nostalgia is almost at an all-time high.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. I really like it. And people ask me if I'm surprised. I always took mini trucking very seriously. I think I took it more seriously than a lot of mini truckers did. And because I wasn't looking at it from a standpoint of a mini trucker, I was looking at it from a standpoint of as an art form. And it was mini trucking sort of kind of stepped in when hot rodding wasn't really the hot rods were all of a sudden no one could afford them anymore, and rat rods hadn't really gotten popular, so they didn't have that retro hot rod thing. So you had your street rods and your hot rods and your custom rod and all the stuff where Dion used to make jokes saying you had the guys with the billet aluminum wallets and the builders that we would say, yeah, they had used Snap-on tool chests, but it just had a checkbook and a pen in it.
Right.
And the mini trucks were just more ground earth. That this was the good old boy building something, doing it himself. Can't afford really nice leather interiors, so I got a can of Zolatone and some tweed and some glue, and there you go. And I'm saying we did some badass interiors with Zolatone, tweed, and glue, and so I do like that. Am I surprised at some of the prices that some of these go for? We were always very proud of the workmanship we did on our vehicles. We didn't go cheap on it. We would play off of certain looks and stuff, but we would actually do it. So they're well built, and like the hood on the last look. I mean, it's pretty much a boat. It's a Curtis Craft Hydro. We just drafted onto the hood. So there's things on that truck that people couldn't afford to get back in the day, and things like I think I mentioned this in the previous show. The wheels on that were off of Boyd Conningson's Testarossa.
I remember you said that.
A long path that we got them, but in my opinion, these trucks were worth it. I still think I want to believe that Tommy Leyendeker's truck is being out there, and the person out there is this megalomaniac guy with a white cat. Wait, I will
Mazda, right?
I will release something wicked this way comes eventually. Yeah, it's a Mazda.
Yes.
I would love. The last time I saw it, it was driving across the intersection, railing sparks with like a 16-year-old girl hauling ass in it. Which I know. Yeah, perfect. But where is the truck? I don't want to. I don't want to all of a sudden see it towing a freaking Gardner trailer with different colored fenders, which I have seen some of the trucks back in the days. All of a sudden, see there's no hood mural, there's no tailgate, and it's towing a lawnmower. It's like, oh.
Yeah, I swear when I was out there for the Sever 10th anniversary for Rezo 02, which I think was the end of 02 going into 03, I was cruising around with Chad Lucas, who at the time, had ties to May Truck and everything, and I remember, I swear, somebody was like, oh, look at that, a Cow Concepts truck just drove by because he lived in Bakersfield. And I swear we looked, and it was something wicked that way comes, and it was like on stock wheels, and it was just like how? It's just insane. But
when I saw it, it was still on its alloys. And it was it looked the same, but this was years ago. And I remember just being surprised because I knew that Tommy had sold it. No one knew who had it anymore. And all of a sudden I see this girl just hauling ass across it was Stockdale Highway and Real Road. And just, just, that was it.
Yeah. And what was cool is you helped me with the intel on that one because you knew Tommy, I think, pretty well, or you remember this. Mm-hmm. One of the Truckins, I have almost all the 90s issues, but I didn't have the issue when it was featured in the bluish color with the hay, I think it was, in the background.
Oh, it was Cobb's. That was Cobbalicious. That was
that's right.
Robin Ramirez, who was also my sensei in Shorin-ryu karate. Very cool dude.
I think I'm getting it mixed up then.
It was blue, and that was now he sold it to Tommy, and Tommy had it when it was blue also, but it went.
Then before that, it was green.
Before it was green, it was known as the Gecko truck.
Yes, and you gave me the intel on that because I think you sent me the photo. And what was cool was like my friend Jason Redden from the Mini Truckin' Mags for Sale down South Florida. we were chatting back and forth, and he goes, "Man, I never realized that was that truck," and he knows his stuff. So to me, it's still cool that some of these stories are a little bit under people's noses, and I mean that in a good way, because it's like we can uncover stuff and people scratch their head. I mean, just like we still talk about West Side Crew Cut, like people are like, "Wait, hold on, wait, what?" And we're like, "Yeah, we've told that story." So it's just mind blowing.
Well, what's really funny is that and nothing's really new. I mean, you could say that in a negative way, but it also has a little bit of a kind of a secure feeling about it. It's like you're not really in unfamiliar territory. When I bought my Camaro, my first car I bought was a 68 SS 396 Camaro, and I bought it when I was 14, and it was burned out. It was burned up. It had been a fire, been primered, and it didn't run. I got it. I rebuilt the engine. I'm sanding it down, and I get down to a yellow paint job. And like electric yellow. And this thing, had a Mako Shark Corvette front end on it, had shaved Hornet door handles, everything was Frenched on it with fender wells. It was a crazy looking 68 Camaro. And as I'm sanding through, I see some graphics. And as I keep on wet sanding, I see some letters, and I see the name Mr. McNasty on the side. And I'm looking at it. I go back and I find my dad used to take me to World of Wheels and RG Canyon shows. And I would go to the World of Wheels show with my little 110 Instramatic. And my dad didn't have any money. I felt bad for him because I would just burn through film, and he had to get it developed. Otherwise, I was a raving lunatic. So I would have these just folders, these photo albums of nothing but horrible photos taken by a 9 or 10-year-old, nothing cropped correctly, of these cars. That it was just like my collateral. Look at this show. Every show I'd go, I'd burn rolls of film. I went through one when I was 10, and Mr. McNasty was in there. It was actually owned by the president of the Camaros Club, and it was considered one of the top. It had won like a bunch of awards, and it was on a turntable.
Wow.
And so when I'm 14, literally only 4 years later, but hey, tell any 14-year-old, you're a lot further than 4 years away from being 10. You're almost cool, but not according to anyone that's 18. And I remember getting that. I just like all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, it's like I discovered, the lost ark or something. But finding that a vehicle has multiple lives, I learned that early on because of that. And I remember always wondering, how many other vehicles out there? I used to always tease my wife with a violin because she had a violin that was from 1725. And I was like, did you ever wonder how many dead people play? Granted, I guarantee it's been played, but there's going to be dozens.
If it could talk, maybe, right? That old saying. Yeah,
there's how many people were attached or how many lives did that instrument have? And it's the same thing with vehicles. I think it'd be a great movie or something, just to follow a vehicle through its different stages of ownership and customization, and then restoration. And I'm a nerd that way. I just think that stuff's cool. And
I think it.
So when people point out the thing about Cobbs, I go, I think it's about the best example I personally know of lives the truck has, and it can still have more of them. Damn it! If that little bratty 16-year-old is probably 30 and fat and has 8 kids by now, but she probably, whatever happened to that truck, it's out there. Someone knows about it.
I need to buy that one. What was cool is when it came up,
Fester will sell everything but the last look to get that one. And it's not because Fester wants it, because everyone wants it, so Fester must have.
Right. ODB needs it. When you came on years ago, we talked a little bit about Ian Fleming and 007. I've been revisiting some of the older films, the late 70s and 80s, even some of the ones that were maybe a little bit corny at the time. Mm-hmm. My favorite is still Goldfinger. And I did a bunch of research because in Goldfinger's where they crushed the Lincoln, that started filming January 64 in Miami, which was cool. But I want to ask you this. Do you see the franchise continuing as like the generations change a little bit? I mean, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think so. It was it's got good roots, good foundation, you want to call it. It was based in reality, but never really dealt with that much reality. My dad was military intelligence and DIA back in the 60s and early 70s, and so he would always he loved those kind of movies, but he also loved the John le Carre novels, a little bit more realistic than Ian Fleming, even though a lot of the truth was based on that. I mean, Ian Fleming's nephew was Christopher Lee, and Christopher Lee, I don't know if you knew that, Christopher Lee actually was in
I didn't know that.
So the thing is, Christopher Lee, in one of his interviews, you'll find it, Ian Fleming based James Bond on Christopher Lee, his uncle. his nephew or something like that. His nephew was because he was younger than Ian Fleming. And it's really interesting that what's based on the reality, and then you can continue going with it. Now, do I think it'll survive? Sure, it will. People love that stuff. They could destroy it. I mean, honestly, there's not much worse you could do than what's been done on 007 to make it just plain dumb. And I'm not being a purist.
Right.
Just about every James Bond did something dumb, except for one. George Lazenby, because he only did one damn movie, so he didn't do anything. And some people say that's still the most accurate depiction of James Bond.
Interesting.
And then people say, well, yeah, but he was sexist. I'm like, did you ever read the book? The books are, James Bond was a dick. But yeah, I think it'll survive. I think it would have been, like Pierce Brosnan was up for it, and he couldn't do it because of Remington Steele. So that's
right.
Reason,
I remember
that's the reason Timothy Dalton got it. And then
we did the few.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of bummed that Idris Elba, and I understand why he didn't want to do it. For one thing, he said he was too old, and he would have been too old. He would have been the oldest person to start doing James Bond. And then, sadly, he didn't want to be the reason because I think a lot of people would be upset at him just being black, and I don't think there's a problem with it. I think Idris Elba's freaking amazing. I think he'd be a great James Bond.
Yeah, and you got to mix things up.
And and with Idris Elba, trust me, you're not doing. I mean, Idris Elba's like in his 50s, and he still will kick your ass. He's bad.
Oh yeah,
he runs around doing MMA stuff. And
I wouldn't mess with
he's
him.
actually he's more James Bond than just about anyone that's been James Bond. But I understand why he chose not to do it. Because he loved it so much, he didn't want to be the reason that it would be. And if you're picking him just because he's black, then you're wrong. The same way if you pick a woman just because it's a woman and whatever, and you get. I don't think James Bond should follow any stereotypical norms. That's why I loved when Daniel Craig came in. He did a necessary thing. He says, we're not going to have anything that isn't real. In other words, every single little toy, he goes, we're going to take a few steps back. No invisible cars. We're going to make it so every single thing. And then people say, but how do you defeat the bad guy? I'm just going to beat the crap out of him. And I can do that. I did it later. I did
all
later
the practical stunts.
So I'll keep on doing it. Yeah, I mean, Daniel Craig just was the most physical out of anyone. Just basically didn't have a whole lot of toys. And so it had to take a step back on that. Now, what are they going to do to take a step back? Or everyone has to reinvent it and make it their own. And I don't know. I don't even know I know a few people that are up for it, but this has got to be the most convoluted, confusing James Bond selection process ever, because I bet you there wasn't this many selections with all the James Bonds put together that are going to this new James Bond. And I don't think they've settled on one yet.
I don't think so either. And I totally concur. They're in this weird place because
Henry Cavill would be amazing in it. I also I was bummed. I mean, you heard the story of Hugh Jackman originally being offered, and he had choice of that or Wolverine, and he asked his 7-year-old son at the time which one. His son started crying because he wanted to be Wolverine, so he became Wolverine. He would have been great.
Yeah, I agree.
I love James Bond. It's my favorite series. And when they're on, I can watch them, even the bad ones.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what I was revisiting.
Good. It's like golf. Even a bad day of golf is better than a good day of work.
Yeah, it was like the cheesy '80s ones, but I kind of fell in love with them, and it was cool because when rest in peace, Sean Connery. Like when I go back and I look at the history, and you look at the cars and the Lincolns, and Pinewood Studios and certain things where they would film, there's so much mystique, and to me it like really captures the essence of like the 60s and the 70s and even the 80s. Again, like some of the cornball Police Academy movies and stuff, some of them kind of played into, I forget the term that they use for it, not campy, I guess campy.
Yeah, but campy. Well, you said your favorite is
Goldfinger.
Is Goldfinger. See, it's funny, is my favorite is Man with the Golden Gun. Okay. And just because I love Christopher Lee so much, and it was just everything was just bitch about that. But Goldfinger is just dang good because I'm a Sean Connery nut. But which that's your favorite, and now the Golden Gun's my favorite. What do you think is the greatest one ever filmed?
I mean, some of the stunts for the newer ones have been to me amazing. I don't know. I'm kind of corny, but I would maybe even go Goldfinger. Or, excuse me, GoldenEye?
GoldenEye was good. GoldenEye was a refreshing surprise. when it
Right,
came
it was
out,
like a
and
coming
I
of
think
age.
it was the best one that Pierce Brosnan did, hands down. Damn good video game. I'm
Yes,
sorry,
and that
best video game.
N64.
It's so good. It's mentioned in. I mean, heck, they talk about it for about 15 seconds in Ready Player One. You know.
You're right. There is that
Yeah.
Easter egg.
What's your favorite mode? You know.
Yes, I know. There's so many Back to the Future references.
Your favorite mode, slap. Yeah, yeah. It was phenomenal. I still have it on for PlayStation 1.
Yeah.
No, my what I think is the greatest one is Skyfall.
Okay.
Just because it literally is almost a perfect movie.
Yep.
And
I don't disagree.
Yeah. Well, the same way people ask me my favorite Star Wars, and I'm odd. People always will pick Empire. You know, the purists say Empire. I'm sorry, my favorite is still New Hope.
New Hope,
the first one.
Just
because it's like that was such a risk, and it barely happened, and they had no.
I know.
And Roger Christian was a genius in it, and so that's my favorite. But people say so. Number 2 is Empire. I'm like, number 2 is Empire, but tied with Rogue One, and people freak out when I say that. They're like, "Why would you?" I go, "You've got to be ballsy when you kill everyone in your movie."
Yeah.
And it's done so well. And think about it. The only people that aren't killed are those 2 jamokes that escape the planet and end up getting jacked up in the first movie in the bar. You know, Walrus Man and Dr. What's his name? Yeah. The only reason that Rogue One is not the absolute perfect Star Wars movie is because they should have just shown the back of her head at the end of the movie. Don't show me that crap CGI.
I know.
It was horrible. Besides that, no, it's but see, I'm odd that way. People just argue with me. I'm like, hey, you know something? That's
it's good discussion.
Didn't they question my Star Wars? They're like, well, I question your Star Wars nerd credit. I'm like, oh, did you go to the premiere in the 70s of the first movie in 76? And no, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I did. Stuck it. Yep.
Yeah, and what's interesting too is that
with nerds it does. So. And
I know you probably have seen this, but
still got the program for it.
Yeah, if you guys haven't seen, if you have access to Disney Plus, I know you probably have seen this, but I tell everyone to watch the Industrial Light and Magic, the ILM documentary. It's done so well, and I knew some of the backstory. You know, I kind of loosely knew some of the names. You know, I knew the faces. But it's so neat to see, you know, Lucas's thought process to go, hey, we need to create this. And then, of course, all of his friends started saying, hey, we're doing this movie. Can you do this effect, this and that?
Oh, yeah.
And it helped keep him busy until the next film was ready, you know, for the production and stuff.
It's amazing that everything got done. Because it's like you watch it, you're like, you couldn't have planned the way you did it. Some of it was just like tripping, falling, landing on one of the greatest movie franchises of all time. If not,
and all the stop action stuff. To me, that the amount of time that it takes. The guy would flap the thing and then he would move a little bit, and you're just like, man, like the Tim Burton stuff. I mean, it blows my mind. But hey, I want to ask you a couple more questions. What besides family, what keeps you busy keeps you motivated these days, Craig?
I actually am. It's kind of funny. I'm actually busier than I ever have been in different venues because even though I've got my day job, which was funny because all my friends were like retiring and I went and got a job and they thought that was just weird as hell. Most of my friends were professionals. So 20 years in the military, 20 top and they're retired. And what are you doing? I'm going to get a job, punch the time card. And
I'm all grown up.
I'm going to get a 401k, see if it's cool. But I still work for Disney. I just finished 2 paintings. I can't really talk about because they're NDA, but they're going to be released pretty soon. I will say one of them is for Mansion. It's for the new stuff they're doing for the Mansion. It'll be on the gallery show for them, so I can mention that. Actually, I could mention what both of them are. I just can't show them to you. The other one's for Casey Jr., which is one of the original rides that Disneyland had when they opened in '55. So I still do. I'm a huge Disney nerd. Still am working with Disney doing that. And of course, with Daniels Woodland, I got my other foot doing stuff for Disney, but through Daniels Woodland. So it's kind of an interesting relationship because there's some people that don't know I'm the same Craig Fraser. They think Craig Fraser, the artist in Disneyana, is a different guy than Craig Fraser, the guy at Daniels Woodland. And then they think there's this guy that works with Imagineering as a consultant every now and then. That's Craig Fraser. I'm like, nah, it's all the same. It's all the same idiot.
Well, they see your 2 or 3 Instagrams and they go, man, there's got to be, he must have cloned himself.
Yeah, no, I just take my hair down, take my glasses off. I'm confused.
Yeah.
So,
We're talking with Craig Fraser. You can follow him on Instagram. For some reason, I can't share. I kept trying to bring it up on my Safari browser, but it's VONFRASER. Follow him on Instagram. As far and then also Craig Fraser Studios.
And by the way, I'm not being a Von Dutch geek. I've said this before. People always say, "Oh, is it Von Fraser?" I go. When I started writing magazines in Germany, they'd always put me down as Von Fraser, and I tried with Instagram to get just at Fraser, and all the Fraser Crane geeks and whoever else had the name Fraser took it. So Von Fraser was the only thing I had left, and I've had that for quite a long time. So
I know.
At Von Fraser, I don't do a lot with my Craig Fraser Studios website because I'm just lazy and I hate doing web.
You got other stuff going on, dude.
Yeah, if you go to at Von Fraser Instagram, it's not open to the public, but I let anybody in. The only reason I do that is just because I have some stuff on there that is proprietary and there's weird laws with some of these companies. They don't mind that the stuff's available to anyone that asks you permission, but they don't want it out there in the public.
And it won't come up in Google searches and stuff like that. I think if it's private, which is cool.
Okay, I understand that.
That could be it.
But I also have Facebook page and stuff like that, and you can link through all and check all of those things out. And then Daniels Woodland, we are redoing the website. It's pretty lame right now. We're trying to add some more stuff onto it, and we just haven't gotten it up and running yet. We have the old one on there. We had a whole bunch of new stuff. Our new trade show stuff we got coming out, and a bunch of new stuff we've done for the parks. So we're going to have it on display, and we're trying to do more and more. Plus, we got the dark ride open. If anyone is in the Monterey Bay area at Cannery Row, the old John Steinbeck Wax Museum in the basement, we took that over and we have a complete dark ride, which is like Pirates of the Caribbean. But can imagine riding a mine car going through the cave, the Cannery Row caverns, looking for Captain Hippolyte Bouchard's treasure. And not only do you got pirates and ghost pirates and a kraken attacking you, but you have a gun and you can shoot back at them. So it's like taking that Buzz Lightyear game at Disneyland and combining Pirates of the Caribbean. And we did stuff in the queue line and everything. And it's
wow.
We right now for the Grand because we've had it open for a year now. We are reopening, I believe, not this week, but next week, in time for like the holidays and stuff, or the season starting. We've added like another minute and a half to the ride, which sounds like not a lot. It's a lot. And we added, I don't know how many more targets and made it even more bizarre.
Wow.
And so,
now, where can they go to ride that one?
That's in Monterey Bay at Cannery Row. If you go to Cannery Row, the main building, Cannery Row, it's right next to Bubba Gump's. You will see signs that say Treasure Hunt the Ride.
Got it.
And that's what it's called. If you go online, we came in, I believe we came in second or third place last year in all new rides, and we beat out Spider-Man, the Spider-Man ride. That new Web Slingers ride at Disneyland, we beat it when it came down to overall rides. And then we've won about, I don't know how many awards with it. So it's very cool, but it's 100% ours. We built it all in-house, partnered it with a company called Sally Dark Ride that does a lot of the digital imaging that are on the screens, but it's a combination of realistic targets and digital, but we don't have like those little lights that you see that you aim at. We actually use digital camera mapping so we can create the targets wherever we want them to be. And it's pretty nuts.
Wow.
Yeah, it's insane. So if you want to see some of the crap I'm doing, it's and then there's a couple of videos of me just spraying rocks in there. It's kind of people saying, "What are you doing?" I go, "Well, it's really similar to doing graphics on a car because I get just so much paint all over me. Except now it's painting rocks and dead skeletons and pirates."
That's awesome. Before I ask if there's anything else you want to share or talk about your daily paintings or your drawings, I just wanted to say one of the artists that I've always loved and being an 80s and really just a film geek is Drew Struzan. And if you think back, he even did the Alice Cooper, the one cover. Mm-hmm. I was bummed that he kept saying he was retired. And I know not everybody likes the new Indiana Jones.
he keeps coming out of retirement. So.
Yeah, and I was like, I really wanted him to do that, and I was happy to see another indie film. Contrary to what anybody says, I win and we enjoyed it and all that. But when I look back at how many the posters he did, and there's a cool documentary. I think it's sometimes free on Amazon. A lot of his work had gotten stolen, and he was able to get it back through some auction houses and stuff. But to me, I've always looked up to him because, like I told you before, I can't draw a stick figure. And when I see the posters, the Police Academy stuff he did, Back to the Future, so much, I just love it.
Yeah, there's a couple of trade shows I've been at with him where he actually worked on posters. He had this one rejected image that he had started doing. It was rejected by Lucas and Spielberg for, I think it was Temple of Doom. And so it was an old layout, and it was all the layout, but he hadn't finished it. He stopped it.
So awesome.
And he went and finished it at Coast Airbrush Party. And so he was just painting it while people watched for 3 days, and he finished it by the end. And I remember talking to him. I went to dinner with him a couple of times, got to hang out with him that whole weekend.
Wow.
And then later I found out that some dude just walked up to him and said, "Hey, how much you want for that?" And he's like, "Well, give me $400. I was like, I had no idea he was even going to sell it, but it was it was never used. But it was still, it drew, and it was finished, and it was freaking, and it was better than the Temple of Doom that was.
Yeah. And he talks about, I think it's Adventures of Babysitting on the documentary about him, where like they came to him and he had to do it like he had like the Saturday and Sunday, and he's like they flew someone out, and it was crazy because back in those days, it's not what it is today. Now, people, artists they have lots of tools now, but back then it was a lot of photography and overlays and like the movie titles.
His technique was very modern for a lot of stuff because he would do printouts of a sepia tone line work that he would do, and it was like it wasn't computer digital, but it was about as pre-digital as you can get. And there's another artist named Cliff Nielsen used to take and do digital layering, where he would print this on here, do some airbrushing, scan it, and print that again, and make some changes. And now it can all be done on Procreate. I've had people ask me if I ever went digital, and I do Procreate. But it's funny, all of my concept art for Disney, if I'm doing a piece, like the piece I did for Haunted Mansion, I'll do it on Procreate on my iPad, because then they'll make all the changes, and I can make the changes. I'm like erase and stuff. And as soon as they approve that, and I only do it line work. I don't do any colors, and because they leave me to my color palette, and then I go and do the painting based off of that. I take that and I'll literally just project that on a canvas, and I'll just redraw it, and then and I do it. And people say, "Oh, it's cheating." I'm like, "No, that's projection." I go, "I have to, because they approved this, and it better be." And I've had them actually get off on that was at a different angle before. So, I do use digital artwork. Many of my renderings nowadays, I'll take a picture of someone's car, and by that night, I can send them back a picture of the truck, and it's the picture of the truck in the same setting, except now I have graphics on it.
Right.
And you can see the reflection of the truck coming through the graphics and everything. And I'll do that all in Procreate. And so, again, a great tool. Do I want to ever use it to do digital art? And I've had some guys say, "Oh, you should just start submitting digital art to Disney." I'm like, "No." He's like, "What's the main reason?" I go, "I don't want to. And secondly, I have an original." And he's a white Craig, you have embellished digital art. You took your digital art, you printed it and embellished it and signed it. You'll never have an original. I have an original I can sell. And because of that, my originals go for quite a bit of money. Yeah. And if you do digital art, you can't sell an original. All you're doing is selling an embellished print that you could always make.
Almost like an NFT. No disrespect to NFTs, but
I did my first NFT. It was funny. I had a painting that it was a little rat fake painting I did for, if anyone wants to go to it, there's a really great gallery in Simi Valley called the Mary Lewis Gallery. It's at the Simi Valley Mall. And I had a little rat fink painting that I embedded a chip into. And so when you take your phone and go over it, it actually brings up a 3-dimensional image of the artwork. And then
that's cool.
And it shows you its value on Ethereum, because I put an assigned value, and it actually is increased in value. So I was like, even if my painting doesn't sell, it will continue to increase. But it's kind of like, was it worth it? I go, well, no, right now the cost of the painting is more than the Ethereum value. But that could change. You don't know.
Right,
and it is an NFT.
And it's cool that you just didn't give someone like a little GIF or something, like some little teeny thing that, so because I know some people they do different stuff, but it's
mine
artistic.
Was original. Mine was an original painting that I embedded the chip into the canvas. Yeah. So it's one of those chips that's an RFID. It doesn't require any power. So you just run your phone by it, and it senses it basically uses signal off your phone to give you that information.
Yep.
And it was a little bit more complicated. Some people just do NFTs of this print, what a pitch. I wanted to have something tangible. So this painting will always be the RF, have that RF chip in it, and it always will be the NFT. So it is defeating the purpose. NFTs are usually, it was non-tangible, non-regulated crypto attached to a non-tangible piece of artwork because it's usually a copy or a digital image. I wanted to attach mine to an actual piece of artwork. So, and then when I tell people, if you want to buy it, I will give you you instantly get, I will sign over to you the value of the Ethereum, because I could be a dick and just hold on to the value. You own the paper. Guess what? I own that. So I'm assigning that. And I've had people, how much is it worth? I go, you have to buy it to find out. I'm going to tell you how much money I'm paying.
I like it.
Because I'm a dick.
I like it. Yeah, and if you go on eBay sometimes, Craig Fraser, Fraser, you'll see some of his works. Some of them is like,
I don't sell anything on eBay.
Right, but
I love it. I have a great catalog of stuff. You can find old VHS, old CDs, and then people keep on trying to find the book. I have a few copies left, but they're mine. I'm working with a company. I'm going to try and see if we can reprint the book, because I have so many people wanting it. And we literally sold the very first book, not the second. The second one did well. We sold over 100,000 copies of it.
Wow.
So that went bestseller. But my first book sold over 400,000 copies. And it was even part of the Monster Nation collection sold through Walmart with Jesse James books. So
wow, I didn't realize that. And you'll sign them
Monster Nation book or the custom paint damned or anything. I remember Jesse called me, again. I wasn't working for Jesse anymore. He called me. He's just like, how the fuck did you get your name on the outside of my book and all the illustrations inside there are yours, and you've got 12 chapters in there, and it's got mine? I go, I was like, you don't pay much attention to your publisher. It's like I sold the usage right. I let him put the stuff in there, and it was cool. I didn't receive any money on that, on those, because I already sold the usage rights off to it. But it was great promotion, and people that got the 12 chapters wanted to get the rest of the book. They had to go buy the whole book. So it was a little bit of a taste, give it a taste. They have to buy the rest. But I'm thinking of putting that book, my original book, maybe combining custom cheap tricks and automotive special effects 1 and 2, put them together and make them an ebook. I think that would be bitching. I think people would.
Yeah, I think it would be. And you'll sign the original stuff if people pay the postage and handling.
I've had people. I just did one 2 weeks ago. I had someone send me actually both books. And they found them. They found one book on eBay, and then the other book they actually found on Amazon used. They got a hold of it, and at least, for a while I felt really good, because Amazon had it. It's not there anymore, but they used to have an algorithm. And I might have mentioned this in a previous show, where if something is not available, the algorithm would keep on increasing the value because it makes it more valuable. If there's only a few of them.
Right.
All of a sudden, there's none of them left. It all of a sudden starts thinking you're freaking Michelangelo and it's the Mona Lisa.
Yeah, because we've seen some weird prices on stuff.
Yeah, my book got as high as $5,600. Yes.
You're like, I've got an NOS one right here. I'll sell it to you.
No one will buy them for $5,600. But I remember taking a screenshot like, Dad, I finally made it. My book is worth more than I made from it. So
that's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Craig, thank you so much for the time. I would encourage people, again, if you want to find more of Fraser, Craig Fraser Studios, you can see it on his shirt there. Yeah. And anyway, it's always cool, even if it's every
star. I'm still doing my daily sketches of different Star Wars nerdy stuff and weird stuff, you name it. Ew.
Yeah, and it's cool. Every few years we pull up, and we consider you family here. Hopefully, when I get back out to California your way, maybe I can stop by and slap hands with you.
Dude, you got to come by and check it out. Check out the shop, man. Shop's nuts.
Yep. And folks, you can follow, I know they're going to be kind of rebranding. I think there maybe is a DWL out there, but Daniel Woodland's, just look that up.
Daniel's Woodland.
Daniel's with an S and then Woodland.
Wood, separate letter, word, and then land. So Daniel's Woodland. But
Daniel's Woodland.
Yeah, danielswoodland.com. And you can check that out. Go do a search. You can go search the Redwood Kings on YouTube to go check those out. And then I've got some. They're not going to be coming out for a little while, but I'm going to be doing some new videos with Craig Kennedy, and then we're going to be launching that little evil Craig chat bot. I can't wait for that, because it's either going to be really embarrassing or highly disturbing and frightening. So
let's try to break it. We'll get every painter in the country in there and ask a question.
Oh yeah, no. The more bad questions you ask, because it learns, the more of an asshole Craig Bot will become. So I'm fully
what do we
looking
want to
forward
do
to
here?
being canceled digitally, where people
Right.
just like, I'm sorry, Craig, we can no longer have your name represented on the internet because of Craig Bot.
The first painter that's been canceled digitally, then you got to spin that into a book,
Yes.
I'm a victim, damn it.
Yeah, exactly.
Pay me.
Me too.
Hey, like I said, dude, it's always cool pulling up. We always have good conversations, and I can't thank you enough.
Oh, anytime, man. Thank you. And let's see, if anyone gets in touch with me, it's easy. You can find me online. My number's out there. It's all over the place, and you can email me. And if you're ever in the Paso Robles, Central California region, a lot of great wineries here. Come on by, give me a holler. I'll give you a tour of the shop. This place is really, really cool. You'll dig it.
Excellent. Yeah, like Ice Cube says, Google me, bitch.
Yeah. Oh, and one more thing. May 31st, June 1st, and 2nd, I will be at the Pasadena Convention Center for Monsterpalooza. It is
cool.
Monsterpalooza is very, very cool stuff. And I'm there representing my artwork. I'm also there with Craytex. I'll have some Daniel's Woodland stuff there. But it's if you ever want to see like the SEMA show for all horror movies, science fiction, special effects, and that kind of stuff, and cosplaying, yeah, Monsterpalooza is sick. It's one of my favorite trade shows of all time.
Yeah, I've seen photos on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
So it's cool.
That's coming up. That's coming up just the end of this month.
We can't wait. We appreciate you, Craig.
Cool. Appreciate you too, buddy.
Hey, there you have it. That is the episode. A little bit shorter, but of course we got right to the point with our title guest, Craig Fraser. Again, I can't thank enough for sitting down with us here this time for an interview via video. We've had him on at least twice in the past, maybe even a best of episode. But certainly if you download Podbean, you can oftentimes go back and search Cal Concepts or Craig Fraser. And as long as I have that in the title, they're pretty easy to locate. I want to give a huge shout out to one of our key partners, and that is Hammered Weekend Wear. We often talk about the awesome merchandise that they launch. I'm wearing one of my Hammered Weekend Wear zip-ups. They recently did 2 older school mini trucks, a D50, also it looks like a Mitsubishi Mighty Max, of course, and they had a square body S10. 2 killer designs. They offer lots of different things like apparel, as well as banners, and so much more. Please visit HAMMERD weekendwear.com. That's Hammered Weekend Wear. Thanks for the support. Keep it posted to OLP if you're new. Again, hit subscribe, follow, whatever that button is based upon the app that you're using. And Lord willing, we'll hit you next week with another episode. This is ODB, and I approve this message.